Alright, g'day, hi and welcome. Today's topic is your guitar polish destroying your guitar. Okay, something I wanted to talk about. It's not super important, but it is kind of important. Number one, look at the finish of this beautiful Mark Holcomb PRS. Is your guitar polish destroying your guitars? And, for those of you that are, newer to guitars and stuff like that, how much polish do you use? What do you use? And, how much is too much? What's not enough? All that stuff. Well, this kit you see in front of you, okay, this is getting worn out completely. It's starting to fall apart, so I can't really use this, but you need a sponge like this, a lint-free cloth for wiping down, or you'll constantly be trying to clean the lint off the guitar. And then really you can get away with just like two, like regular just guitar polish, plain old guitar polish, and fretboard conditioner. These are the two that I use the most. Now, how often do I use them? What I use, this one here is Swirl Haze Remover. If you've got like a really lot of swirl, it does work, and then you can use that as well. And then you've got the chrome and brass cleaner polish, for your bridges and stuff. And then this one here is more for like unfinished and satin finished instruments. You can use that as well. And this one's just a mist wipe, same as this kind of. I don't know why they gave you two, but in the kit it came like this and with this. Now, my mom and dad bought this for me back when I was a teenager, and I'm 51 years old now. That's how long it lasts. So that kind of gives you an idea how often you have to use it. Now, when I do a string change on my guitars, usually what I do, especially with a new guitar, now mind you, I've had this guitar for almost 2 years now, and I've still got the original strings on it. I know, shame on me, but I don't change my strings unless I necessarily have to, if I break one, or if I'm playing live. Then if I'm playing live, I'll, change strings quite regularly, like before the gig, maybe not the day before the gig, but maybe a couple of days before the gig, that kind of thing. Give them a chance to break in. And then after the gig, cut them off, put on some new ones, right? Now, when I'm in that process, I'm one of those people that, because I can intonate my own guitars and stuff, I just take all the strings off at once, and that's when I give it a good cleaning. So you can see, like here in the bridge, it's kind of dirty. Right in there, it's kind of dirty. You can't really get those spots when the strings are on it, easily. So what I do is I take everything off the guitar, and that's when I prepare it to clean. But before you do anything, I can't stress this enough. Do not use Pledge to clean your guitars. Never use Pledge to clean your guitars. You're going to make that mistake once. That stuff never comes off. It's just like if you have a delicate finish like a nitrocellulose lacquer, you've just probably ruined the finish. You'll get like a very cloudy look to it, and you can never rub it all off. It just, guitar polish is probably cheaper than furniture polish anyway. And it, so I just get the regular guitar polish. Doesn't matter what brand. One squirt, on the front, one squirt on the back usually does the whole guitar. Maybe one on the neck. And if you're going to do the headstock, one thing I noticed about PRS headstocks, they're like that most difficult headstock to clean. Everything's so tight in there. So yeah, it doesn't really matter which one you pick. But if you're going to do it, like I do it, like say maybe like the guitar polish, I wouldn't, every time you pick up the guitar, when you're done playing, wipe it down with something like this, but you don't have to put the polish on it, because you put the polish on it, you'll work it off, is basically what you're doing, right? Because what happens if you use too much of any sort of polish, you get like a buildup, and then it gets hazy, and then a lot of times it ends up working into the finish, even if it's a polyethylene finish or whatever. Sometimes it'll work into that. You'll get like these dull spots that, usually it's around here that you see it. That's where the most grunge from your arm and stuff is. So that's why if you just wipe it down from that, it like the oils in your arm and acids and, like that over time will tarnish your finishes. Nothing you can do that. It's just, it patinas that way, right? But what I would also say is that if you wipe it down after every time you play, you get less of that grunge build up to begin with, so it just lasts longer. So as a guy who's owned, not bragging, just this is what I've owned. I've owned 54, 56 guitars in my life, and a lot of nice guitars too. And I have guitars for years and years and years, and they still look like they're brand new a lot of times, just because of the way I take care of them. So what I'm telling you actually works. And well, it's worked for me. Maybe it won't work for you, but I can't see how it won't. So you get the guitar, you just brought it home from the store, okay? It's nice and shiny, whatever. I just kind of leave it be, just wipe it down with a lint-free cloth after you're done playing. Then after maybe about a month, or whenever you do your first string change, wipe it down, clean it up. When you do your first string change, I would probably just a drop or two on the fretboard. As long as there's a little bit of oil on each fret, you're probably going to be good for like the year with just fretboard oil, maybe once a year, unless you're really dry conditions. Ebony fingerboards are known for cracking, like getting little cracks and stuff like that. So far, I've been lucky, knock wood. But yeah, so when I do change the strings, yeah, that's something I'm going to do. I just did, for example, the fretboard on the H string here, the Jatoba fretboard, which almost has, like, when it's new, it's like a bright orange, right? Now, if you like that, the downside to putting oil on the fretboards is it darkens the fretboards, even if it's a maple one. It'll slightly darken it if it's depending on how it's finished. If it's got like an actual gloss finish on it, then there's no point. But if it's just a satin finish on the maple fingerboard, putting oil on it will darken it ever so slightly. Ebony will have a nice wet look to it, even darker. Rosewood gets really rich looking and beautiful. And even the Jatoba starts to look a little bit more like a unfinished rosewood, so which makes the Jatoba look a little bit, well, to me, it's just, I don't like the look of a Jatoba. The laurel wood, I don't, some of it is really nice, and there's the other one, is it Morente? No, what's the other one? But anyway, there's another one of the Jatoba, the laurelwood, and there's one more, I can't think of the name of it. I'm not a particular fan. They're cheaper woods, right? But rosewood, maple, and ebony are like the gold standard for, for fingerboard aesthetics, right? Typically. Now, that said, I'm sure there's other exotic woods, but we're talking most guitars here, what they're built out of. But regardless of what you have, if you have an unfinished fretboard, which is most fretboards, dab a little bit of oil on there. Maybe you don't have to do it every time you change the strings, because it will build up residue and whatever. The idea is put the stuff on and work it off. With the oiling the fretboards, what I do is I typically, I'll take all the strings off the guitar, put the oil on the fretboard, and then I'll just let the guitar sit overnight. Like I'll wipe off as much as I can, and then I'll give it another quick wipe, before I put the strings on, so that it's as dry as possible, like the oil's residues is worked in as possible, right? And like I say, just like a couple of drops, as long as you can get a little bit on every fretboard, or in between each fret, you're good. The swirl haze remover and stuff like that, I don't really use. I have used them. Like, I've used every one of these polishes. I have used it, but it's not something that you use very often. Like, it's only once you get, like, usually on the back of the guitar, you get all those swirls, or on a pick guard. That's usually where you use the swirl haze remover, because that stuff is pretty thick, right? So I don't really use it on the finishes, because I think it's kind of like a pledge in that sense, where it's just like you put it on there and it takes forever to work it off. The other thing is, depending on what kind of finish you have on your guitar, most guitars have a polyethylene finish, so you don't have to worry. That's pretty indestructible stuff. So, but if you have like nitro finishes and stuff like that, be careful what finishes you use. Like, you might have to get like, for example, this one's meant for like satin finishes, like acoustic guitars and stuff like that, and you just a little drop at a time. If you have a guitar that you don't care as much for, you can test on that, but usually you can't go wrong with just a regular mist wipe. That usually does pretty much everything. Now, as far as the hardware, I usually just give it a wipe down, like springs and stuff like that. If you want to get a drop of tool oil, just a very, not just enough so that things don't strip out on you or rust on you, especially on the bridges, because you can get rust on these little screws, right? Just because the acid's in your hand. So stay on top of stuff like that and you should be good. But anyway, yeah, I just thought, yeah, just be careful what polishes you use. Do research like anything. I've had good luck with this kit. Again, it's old as the hills, but, you know, it is what it is. And yeah, there we go. I'll leave it at about that.